Some men walk into a room, hoping to be noticed. Jason Statham walks in already knowing the room will change. The bistro was half empty, the music too loud, the waiter too proud. With a sneer, he tossed Jason a menu like a favor and muttered, "We don't serve people like you up front." But what he didn't know was that Jason Statham didn't just own the seat he sat in, he owned the restaurant. Respect is quiet, but humiliation, that's loud. And sometimes it echoes all the way to the top. Before we continue, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Comment below. Jason Statham never liked putting his name on things. He didn't build his restaurant group for status. He built it for the people who never got treated right, the ones who got passed over, spoken down to, or made to feel small just because they didn't look the part. He'd grown up seeing that kind of thing, firsthand. So when the money came, he did something rare. He disappeared into service. Quiet ownership, private visits, watching how people behave when they think no one's watching. The bistro in Cliffside Springs had been one of his favorites. Tucked off the coast, once run by a warm-hearted couple who treated every guest like royalty. Jason had sat in the corner many nights with no fanfare, sipping a black coffee, nodding at the regulars. But over the past few months, something changed. Complaints started coming in, staff turnover, a dip in quality. And then came the letter, a handwritten note from a local teacher, folded around her receipt. "This place used to be my safe spot. I don't come here anymore. The people make me feel like I don't belong." That was all Jason needed. The next day, he drove down the coast, took the long way in, and parked 2 blocks away. No one knew he was coming. No fanfare, no cameras. Just Jason, a cracked leather jacket, and a fire in his chest that hadn't burned in a while. He walked in during the dinner rush. The hostess barely looked up. The music was too loud for comfort, bass thumping in a way that clashed with the tablecloths. Customers sat stiff, unwelcomed. Some plates sat unbussed, drinks watered down, but it was the waiter that sealed it. Kyle, mid-20s, hair too neat, voice too sharp, wore his uniform like armor, his attitude like a crown. He took one look at Jason and let out a sigh loud enough for 3 tables to hear. "Yeah, you alone or?" No smile, no warmth. Jason nodded once. "Just me." Kyle dropped the menu like it was a burden, mumbled something about the kitchen being backed up, and walked away. Jason didn't flinch, just scanned the room. Watched Kyle breeze past the family waiting on drinks. Caught him joking with a table of influencers near the window. 2 more customers tried to wave him down. Kyle ignored them both. Jason's food arrived late, cold. When he quietly asked if it could be reheated, Kyle leaned down, smirked, and whispered just loud enough. "Should have gone to the diner, mate. They microwave everything there. Might be more your speed." Jason didn't even blink. Just sat back, took a bite, and let the flavor of disrespect settle in. He stayed another hour. Long enough to watch Kyle mess up an order and blame the kitchen staff. Long enough to see a young busboy get chewed out for looking lazy while on break. And long enough to hear Kyle crack a joke to the bartender about weird old men who dress like bikers but can't afford the bar menu. Jason heard it all, every word. And still, he said nothing. When the check came, Jason didn't tip. He left something else instead. A business card. Black. Embossed. No name. No title. Just the logo of the restaurant group and a private number printed clean across the center. Kyle picked it up, squinted at it, and scoffed. "Guess Grandpa's got a print in his garage," he muttered, flicking it into the trash. The bartender laughed. Jason stood, nodded politely to the host on his way out, and disappeared into the night, just as quiet as he came in. But in that silence, something had already shifted, because tomorrow everything would change. The morning sun rose like it always did over Cliffside Springs. But inside the bistro, things were off. The manager, Greg, a man more interested in spreadsheets than soul, stormed through the kitchen doors already sweating. He barked orders no one understood, demanded spotless uniforms, and told everyone to smile like you mean it or fake it better. Something was coming. No one knew what. Kyle rolled in 10 minutes late with sunglasses on and a hangover he wasn't trying to hide. What's with the freak out? He asked, popping gum and checking his reflection in a shaker. Corporate's flying in, Greg snapped. Big boss. Real big. We don't know who yet. Could be an investor. Could be the founder. Kyle laughed. Right. Like the ghost owner actually cares about this dump. Greg flinched. You better watch your mouth today. You serve every table like it's your mother's birthday. Got it. That got Kyle's attention. The manager never talked like that. He raised an eyebrow. You nervous or something? Greg didn't answer, just adjusted his tie and marched out. By 11 a.m., the restaurant was transformed. The music was softer. The floor shined. Everyone wore their best apron, but tension hung thick like steam from a kitchen. At 11:22, the front door opened. Jason Statham stepped in. No leather jacket this time, just a sharp gray shirt tucked in, sleeves rolled to the forearms, calm in his posture like he belonged in every room he entered. Because he did. Greg was the first to spot him. He rushed over, hand extended, suddenly all teeth and nerves. Mr. Statham, we weren't expecting you personally, sir. Kyle froze. The name hit him like a slap. Jason shook Greg's hand, then looked around the place slowly. Let's get everyone together. I'd like to say a few words. The manager scrambled like a man on fire. In 5 minutes, the entire team stood in the staff room. Servers, cooks, dish crew, hostesses, all packed in confused, curious, quiet. Jason stood at the front. He didn't raise his voice. My name is Jason Statham. I built this place from nothing. Not for press, not for profit, but because service, real service, is about dignity. The room was dead still. He paced slowly. I like to walk into my restaurants unannounced. No titles, no suits, just me. Because how people act when they think you're nobody tells you everything. He turned, right, Kyle? And yesterday, I was treated like nobody. Kyle shifted, his mouth parting slightly, unsure if he should apologize, defend, or disappear. Jason didn't give him the chance. You mocked my food. You ignored your tables. You humiliated your team. All because you thought no one could hold you accountable. A few gasps scattered through the room. Kyle's confidence was unraveling like a thread. Jason looked at the rest of the staff now. This isn't just about one person. This is about what we allow. Every time you let disrespect slide, it spreads. I'm not here to fire anyone. Not yet. I'm here to reset the soul of this place. He paused. Kyle stays. He'll train from the bottom up, starting with lunch shift. No special treatment. And if he can't handle that, the door's right there. Everyone turned to Kyle. He looked like he'd just been pushed off a cliff. You're serious? Jason's eyes never flinched. Deadly. Kyle swallowed his pride like poison and gave the smallest nod he could muster. Okay. Jason faced the room once more. You've all got a chance to rise, or a chance to watch someone else take your place. Make that choice today. Then he walked out. No fanfare. No final words. Just walked back into the restaurant and sat at the corner booth like any other man grabbing lunch. But now everyone knew who he was. And more importantly, they knew what he stood for. Kyle showed up the next morning before the doors opened. No sunglasses, no gum, no swagger. Just him, standing in the back alley behind the bistro, staring at the staff entrance like it might bite him. He rubbed his palms together, cracked his neck, and walked in. Jason was already there, wearing an apron, slicing lemons behind the bar like he'd done it 1,000 times. Grab an apron, Jason said without looking up. You're on prep. Kyle opened his mouth to protest, but nothing came out, so he tied on the apron and joined in. No one said a word. The staff watched him like a stranger, because that's what he was now. The first few days were brutal. Jason worked side by side with the kitchen and waitstaff, checking temps, tasting sauces, wiping counters down to metal. Every time Kyle tried to coast, Jason was there. When he dropped a fork tray and said, "That's not my job," Jason quietly handed him a broom. when he scoffed at being asked to run bread to a table. Jason held the door open for him and said, "Pride doesn't feed people. Move." Kyle was cracking, fast. He burned his hand on a pan, tripped over a stool, got chewed out by a dishwasher half his size. The staff who used to laugh with him now looked through him. But Jason never humiliated him. Not once. He corrected. He challenged. He pushed. But never with malice. It was worse than yelling, because it was fair. One afternoon, during a slow lunch shift, Jason called a quick huddle near the pass. "I want each of you to tell me one thing this restaurant stands for," he said. The team spoke up. Words like warmth, precision, dignity, presence. Then Jason turned to Kyle. "And you?" Kyle hesitated, cleared his throat. "Respect?" Jason stared at him a moment. "For who?" Kyle looked down. "For everyone." Jason nodded once. Good start. By the end of the week, the team was tighter, crisper. The food went out hotter. The guests lingered longer, and the noise that once filled the space had turned into something softer, something whole. But Kyle was still struggling. He'd stop himself from snapping, only to roll his eyes when no one was looking. He'd greet a customer, but his smile never reached his eyes. He wasn't sabotaging anymore, but he wasn't showing up either. One night, after closing, Jason locked up and found Kyle outside leaning against the wall. "I don't get it," Kyle muttered. "Why keep me? Why not just can me and be done with it?" Jason leaned beside him, arms crossed. "Because someone once didn't fire me when I deserved it," he said. "They saw something under the attitude. I'm trying to do the same." Kyle scoffed. "I'm not you." Jason looked him dead in the eye. "Not yet." The next day, Jason didn't show up. First time in weeks. The team looked around like a compass had vanished. Kyle waited for someone to take charge. But no one did, so he stepped up, reluctantly, awkwardly. He assigned sections, greeted guests, checked in on the kitchen. Not great, but not a disaster either. By 7 p.m., they were in full swing, and a customer spilled a drink near the front table. The hostess was flustered. The busboy froze. Kyle grabbed a towel and ran over, kneeling beside the older woman, and apologizing with words no one had ever heard him say before. "Totally my fault, ma'am. Please let me comp your dessert. I insist." She smiled, touched his arm gently, and said, "Young man, you're very kind." Kind. That word stuck with him longer than any insult ever had. As he cleaned up, he looked up and saw someone standing across the street, watching through the glass. Jason, arms folded, face unreadable. Then just a nod, and he disappeared again. The night was slow. One of those strange Tuesdays where the town seemed to sleep early and the table stayed half full. Kyle was on the floor, tying a kid's shoe under table 3. Not because anyone told him to, because he wanted to. That shift had started like any other. He clocked in, checked the bookings, wiped down menus. But something in him felt quieter, less about performance, more about presence. That's when they came in. A woman, early 30s, shoulders slumped from the weight of something heavier than just a long day, and 2 young kids, probably 6 and 9, buzzing with the kind of wild energy only kids without structure have. They were loud. They knocked over the salt shaker before sitting down. One kept banging the table with a spoon. The woman looked like she was trying not to cry. Most servers would have groaned, swapped tables, passed them off. Kyle walked straight to them. "Evening, folks," he said with a grin. "I see we're already having fun." The kids laughed. The woman gave a half smile, grateful but guarded. He crouched down. "You guys like magic?" Their eyes lit up. Kyle pulled out a coin from behind the younger boy's ear. The spoon banger dropped his utensil in awe. The tension at the table melted in seconds. He helped the woman order something simple, recommended a dish not on the kids' menu, but easier on the wallet, brought out waters with lemon slices, shaped like stars. Then quietly he spoke to the kitchen. "Don't ring this one up. Tell Jason it's on me." They looked at him like he'd grown a second head. But no one argued. Kyle served them like royalty, topped off drinks, boxed the leftovers himself. And right before they left, He knelt beside the kids and gave them 2 small wrapped cookies. "You guys take care of your mom, all right? She's the real hero." The woman teared up. She tried to thank him, but the words caught in her throat. So instead, she wrote something down on a napkin before she left. Kyle didn't read it until after close. It said, "My husband left us last week. I didn't know if I could face people tonight. Thank you for reminding me that good men still exist." Kyle sat in the break room, napkin in hand, staring at the words like they were written in another language. Then he felt it, a presence. He turned and saw Jason leaning in the doorway. No smirk, no nod, just that same unreadable look. Watching. "How long were you standing there?" Kyle asked. "Long enough." Kyle held up the napkin like it was evidence. I didn't do it for show. I swear." Jason stepped in. "I know." He took the note gently. "Read it," then folded it once clean and slid it back into Kyle's hand. "Frame it, not for pride, for memory." Kyle swallowed the lump in his throat. "You think I'm changing?" Jason paused. "I think you're becoming." That night, Kyle closed the restaurant himself, wiped every table, checked the cooler twice, made sure the front door locked with that extra click Jason always listened for. And for the first time, he left with no weight on his shoulders, only purpose. What about you? If someone who disrespected you turned around like this, would you forgive them or let them go? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know what justice means to you. They called it the reset night, a soft relaunch. No press release, no influencers, no gimmicks. Just word of mouth, handwritten flyers, and a mission. Free meals for first responders, teachers, and local families. The staff buzzed with energy they hadn't felt in months. Uniforms crisp, smiles honest. The kitchen prepped like a battalion before battle. Pans clattered like drums. Spices bloomed in the air. But all eyes were on one person. Kyle. Jason had called him in early that morning. Quietly. Just the 2 of them at a corner booth with black coffee between them. "Your running point tonight," Jason said flatly. Kyle froze. "You serious?" Jason nodded. "You've seen the worst of this place. You helped build it. Now show me you can rebuild it too." Kyle blinked. "What if I screw it up?" Jason didn't flinch. "Then you'll clean it up, like the rest of us." So when 6 o'clock hit, Kyle stood at the host stand in a clean slate gray button-down, hair combed back. No sarcasm, just a deep breath and a second chance. The doors opened. A wave of people poured in. Teachers with book bags, paramedics in uniforms, tired single dads, tired single moms, kids of every size with wide eyes and bigger appetites. Kyle greeted each one personally. "Glad you're here. Table for 4? You got it. Thank you for what you do." No script, just sincerity. Jason stayed in the back, not hiding, just observing. Every now and then, someone would catch sight of him and whisper. A retired firefighter gave him a respectful nod. A teacher offered a handshake. He accepted them all, but said little. This night wasn't about him. It was about what he built, and whether it still stood for what he meant it to. The orders came fast. Kitchen slammed. One fryer broke down and the dishwasher jammed. But Kyle never cracked. He ran plates, checked on tables, apologized when things were late, and meant it. He called out to go orders with energy, wiped down menus between turns, refilled waters like he'd invented the concept. And then it happened. Jason sat down, alone, corner booth, same seat as the first night Kyle insulted him. There were no words spoken. No signals, just a quiet challenge. Kyle walked over slowly, hands calm, eyes clear. "You ready to order, sir?" he asked with small, wry smile. Jason raised an eyebrow. "You tell me." Kyle nodded. "Tonight, I got just a thing." He returned 5 minutes later with a plate not on the menu. Grilled chicken over lemon-roasted potatoes, house vinaigrette salad, a warm roll brushed with rosemary oil. Jason stared at the plate, then back at Kyle. "No one's ordered this in years," he said. Kyle grinned. "First dish I ever served here." Watched a regular cry when she tasted it. Figured it might still matter. Jason picked up his fork, took one bite, chewed slow, then nodded once. It does. Kyle stood a little taller. The night ended with applause. No big speech. Just guests clapping as they walked out. Tired teachers hugging busboys. First responders high-fiving kitchen crew. Tips stuffed into jars, even though the meals were free. Jason walked into the kitchen last, looked at the staff, sweaty, exhausted, triumphant, and said one thing. You brought this place back. No one said a word. They didn't need to, because the look on Kyle's face said it all. He hadn't just fixed his reputation. He'd found his place. 2 weeks later, the buzz still hadn't worn off. Locals kept coming in, bringing friends, telling stories about reset night, like it was a town holiday. The regulars returned. The air felt different, lighter, more human. But the biggest change wasn't the decor or the menu. It was Kyle. He stood behind the host stand now, not like a gatekeeper, but like a guide. Still joked with the kids. Still had his edge. But the sharpness had dulled into something gentler. A warmth with teeth. He trained new hires personally. Showed them how to fold napkins right, how to make guests feel seen, and how to own their mistakes without flinching. Jason kept showing up, just less. Some mornings for coffee. Some evenings to sit quietly at the bar. But each time, he lingered less, spoke softer, and watched more. One night, after closing, Kyle walked into the kitchen to find Jason wiping down the final counter. You know you don't have to do that anymore, Kyle said. Jason smiled faintly. That's the problem with restaurants. When they're working, you want to stay. Kyle hesitated. You heading out for good? Jason looked around the kitchen like a father inspecting a room his kids finally clean on their own. Maybe, or maybe I just don't need to watch anymore. There was a long pause, a comfortable one. Then Kyle spoke up. There's something I never told you. That first night, I wasn't mean to you because I thought you were nobody. I was mean because I thought I was. Jason didn't blink. Yeah, I figured. Another beat. Kyle stepped forward and extended his hand. Thanks for not quitting on me. Jason shook it, firm, steady. Don't thank me yet. It's harder to stay good than it is to become it. Kyle nodded. Jason looked at him one last time. Not as a boss, not even as a mentor, but as a man who'd once stood in the same fire. Then he turned, walked out the back door, and disappeared into the night. No fanfare, no announcement, just Jason Statham, fading into the background like he always did, after setting everything right. A few nights later, Kyle stood at the window, watching a new busser nervously approach a guest. He stepped in, offered help, smiled like he meant it, and let the kid breathe. A nearby server asked, How'd you learn to do that? Kyle chuckled. There was this guy once came in here like he was nothing. Turned out he was everything. The restaurant glowed behind him. Full tables. Laughter rising. People who mattered, feeling like they did. Jason Statham had left the building, but his presence, still at every table. Some stories don't end with fireworks. They end with light. The kind that spills softly across a floor when a door finally opens. Jason Statham never came back to the Cliffside Bistro, not officially, but his name still lived on the schedule, next to a shift he never took. Staff whispered about it like folklore, a reminder, a warning, a comfort. The truth is, Jason didn't save that restaurant. He just reminded it who it was meant to be, because dignity doesn't shout. It doesn't demand applause. It just shows up every day, does the work, and leaves without asking for credit. That's what Jason believed. He didn't need to be thanked. He didn't want to be followed. He just wanted people to stop confusing status with worth. That's why he sat in the corner, like any other man. That's why he let the insult roll off his back. That's why he didn't fire Kyle, when every part of him probably wanted to. Because revenge makes noise. But transformation? That speaks in silence. Kyle wasn't a villain. He was just a mirror, showing what happens when no one teaches you better. And Jason didn't hand him a lesson. He made him earn it, not with punishment, but with patience. That's the part people forget. Real change isn't about one big moment. It's 1,000 quiet ones. choosing kindness when it's not deserved, offering trust before it's earned, believing someone can be more than their worst day. That's what made Jason different. He didn't want to win the room. He wanted to lift it. So here's the final truth. You never know who's watching. The tired man in the corner. The woman who doesn't look rich enough. The kid who can't speak English yet. The old man you didn't bother to greet. Any one of them might own the building. But more than that, any one of them might be the kind of person who sees through you, who waits to see who you are when no one's looking, and who believes you can be more than your attitude. Jason Statham didn't walk in to be served. He walked in to see. And what he saw was a place that forgot what service meant, until one bad night gave it the chance to remember.